You just blaze through a whole bunch of tasks and you're ready to open up your first area, and you're not sure which one you want to go with. You kind of have your route in mind, but again, you gotta pick which one you're going to first. Then you're in the right place. Now, some things that you want to consider when you're picking your first area. I'm not saying any of these are bad by any means. Each area has something to offer, but you're gonna have to keep doing the tasks. Like, you want to push further and get more relics and start working towards your second area unlock. So some of these definitely have advantages for picking them early on, and that is what I want to focus on to make that first choice easier for you. Now, hopefully you've already got your route decided, because I'm not talking about specific builds, so this is more from a general sense. And just to kind of understand what you're starting with, Mistlin and Karamja, they both have actually kind of a lot of stuff to offer. Just to throw some of the things out there, I mean, you're going to have things like Soul Wars for both prayer experience and the crates to get stuff. You have a couple of things, you have a couple of bosses that can help with some of the early mid-game gear. So you have like the Deranged Archaeologist on Fossil Island, Obor and Bryophyta for different ruin gear. You also have the Tazar people for all of the like hobby junk. Good luck saying all of that stuff. So there is a lot here for you. Now, in terms of shops, if you go for something like Fire Sale, or you just have a bunch of cash on hand, you're gonna have access to Varrock for all of your early game needs, with a ruin shop, with a staff shop, all of the different like armor and weapon shops that are there. And then as you start to gain some levels, there's a couple of places that you can get ruin. The Champions Guild, you're gonna start with 25 quest points. You're gonna be pretty close. You do have to get up to 32 to access the guild itself, so you'd have to quest a little bit, maybe pick up like Romeo Juliet and then 2 other quick quests like Cook's Assistant and something. You've also got the Brimhaven shop for early food with Karambwans, and then you've got the Tazar shop, which you can look to. It's going to be kind of expensive to try and buy things there early unless you go for something like Fire Sale, where you're going to have basically unlimited cash, but it is there for you. And also charter ships as well, you're going to have access to those through Karamja. So you can use that for things like crafting, for sand and soda ash if you want some of those levels early on. And there's a couple of other items in there that could be useful for you. To help visualize some of the gear that is available, I mean, like I said, there's a lot in the starting area. Magic's a little bit weak, but you're going to be pretty well set up with range. You can even get a Ruin crossbow, but you'll have to fletch it from Ruin limbs. And then your melee set is probably going to be your strongest one. For any of you folks who are really good at fire capes, if you pick that up early, you can also go for the obby armor. But I think for a lot of people, you're probably not going to do that until you've like unlocked your at least your first region, maybe even your second region, because you're not going to get the combat relic until later on. And again, in terms of like skilling options, you're going to have fly fishing in both the Barbarian Village and Shiloh Village. You're going to have Karambwans once you do that quest. You'll have birdhouse runs for Hunter, as well as access to Grey Chins through the Isle of Souls. Master Farmers are probably where you're going to cap out in terms of thieving. Rune Crafting, Cosmic Altar, Agility, you've got a couple of courses in Draenor, Varrock, and then you've also got the Brimhaven one if you want to go for tickets. There'll probably be some tasks associated with that as well. And then there's also the Volcanic Mine, which it's probably going to be difficult to get into early game because you need 150 kudos. There's no way you're going to be there at the start. So I put that on here. It is there. I'll be surprised if you can get into it early game, but just don't forget about it. Now, moving on to our first region choice, the desert. And there has been a ton of updates since the last leagues, and there's a ton of stuff that you can really do. So obviously you're going to have things like Mage Training Arena that you can do, or the Agility Pyramid for cash. But you also have things like the Giant's Foundry for smithing, Pyramid Plunder for thieving, Guardians of the Rift, that's a new one for rune crafting, Temperos for fishing. You also can run Squirks in the Sorcerer's Garden for both thieving and also getting stacks of herbs if you'd like. And then something else, you'll have bandits available for AFK training, assuming you can get a god item. Again, some of the noble shops, you get access to a Tanner, which can be nice. Get some more range armor, get some gold flowing if you didn't go for Fire Sale. You got a gem shop, you got a crafting shop. If you opted not to go for the Champions Guild, you can pick up some ruin items from Narda. And then you'll also have access to the folks who can clean herbs and grind secondaries there. You probably won't really be using in the early game, but they are there, so if you end up doing a lot of Sorcerer's Garden and have a ton of herbs that you want to clean, I mean, I guess you could. Now, gear-wise, since you got access to a Tanner, there's red dragons in the Brimhaven dungeon, so you could get red dragonhide armor pretty easily. And I guess something else to think about too, you will have access to clues. They're going to be locked to the area that you have available. So whether you do that when you only have the starting areas, or if you want to do it after your first choice, you could. And that'll also give you access pretty easily to things like Black D-Hide. You can get a full rune setup, magic shortbow. So you do also have that as an option. That'll be true for all of the areas. So I wanted to stick to things that you can more easily access within the area, but do keep that in mind. You can always do clues and get some of that gear as well. Now, one of the big parts of the desert is going to be magic through the magic training arena. You'll be able to get full infinity. You'll be able to get your master's wand. You can get a tome of water through Temperos. And then you're also unlocking ancients and desert treasure 2. Since it's completed automatically, you'll get a ring of shadows as well, which has some stats to it. So this is going to be really good for your mage gear. Although the points that you get from minigames, you are going to get bonus points, but that's going to scale with the number of relics. So you may not want to spend a ton of time here early on. So take this with a grain of salt. You may not actually end up going for infinity robes now. You might do that after you've already picked up a couple more relics later on. So skilling options, a lot of this is coming from those minigames that you're playing. So like rune crafting with Guardians of the Rift, Temperos for fishing, thieving. I mean, you've got a lot of options for thieving. Smithing with Giant's Foundry. You will get access to another hunter method through orange salamanders, and then you'll also have one of the best mining methods in the game with sandstone. So you are picking up a couple extra skilling options if that's something that you want to do. The next area on the list is going to be Morytania. Now, I mean, really, this one is not looking great as a first choice. It's very much PVM Slayer heavy with things like Barrows and the Slayer Tower, but you do also get the Ectofunctus, which gives you a way to train prayer. Triple Brewing is technically a minigame. It is there. I almost didn't even want to put it on here. I mean, you're probably going to have tasks associated to it, so you're going to have to do it. It does give a little bit of XP, but it's not great. And then you also have things like Temple Trekking and the Shades of Morton minigame. Again, not a lot in the way of shops. You do get access to a Tanner, so you know, same deal as Alcarid. You're going to get to make some more armors for your range setup. You're going to be able to make those to also Alk if that's something that you want to do. There are also 2 food shops here. So in Moss the Harmless, you get kind of like the lower level raw fish, and then you can buy a stock of 1 shark at a time, which, I mean, that would suck, but I mean, you can do it. The stock does refresh when you open up the shop, so you could get a whole bunch of sharks there. So that might be good for things like cooking training or just having food. And of course, gear-wise, Barrows is kind of pushing the mid-game, but it is definitely in there. And I think because you've got the Ectofunctus, I mean, it's not that hard to get 43 prayer even without it. You'll have protection prayers, and then even just bringing in like the base magic setup from the starting area, you're going to be able to kill pretty much all of the Barrows brothers. You can also get the necklace for when you have a full set. It'll make the set effects better. Now, again, like, this is going to be so Slayer focused, PVM focused. I think you're probably better off taking this later on. You don't need to take this as your first area, but you could. Just keep in mind, you're going to be having to do a lot of Slayer, a lot of Barrows, and probably pretty trash gear, and you're not going to get the benefit of the increased drop rate on rare items until you've picked up a couple of relics. So like the chances of you getting an item is going to be, you know, maybe like you'll be at 2 times or something if you take this first. So it's not going to be quite as good. And likewise, there's not a lot of skilling options. I mean, you can get crafting at the Shades of Morton minigame. You can use that for fire making as well. But again, like, I mean, you're picking up a farming patch, so I mean, you're getting a little bit. There's just not as many options here. I also put the tome up here from Temple Trekking. You can get that as a reward. It can be in any of the skills that are listed out there on the right. However, it's random. You don't get to pick the tome. So like, if you wanted to use it for agility, you may end up doing Temple Trekking and get like 6 woodcutting tomes in a row, and you're gonna hate your life and wish you hadn't picked Morytania. So like, just be careful with that. Now, the next area I'm going to look at is the wilderness. And again, very similar to Morytania, this one probably benefits more if you pick it a little bit later. You will get the rejuvenation pool and the Ferox Enclave, which is probably one of the biggest draws to this area. You're also going to get the Chaos Altar deep in the wilderness for prayer training, along with lava dragons if you prefer to do something like that. Also, now again, this is early mid-game. You're probably not going to be doing a lot of the bosses because you don't have the increased drop rates yet. You don't have the combat relic yet. So you're going to struggle a little bit. I mean, the bosses out here aren't necessarily that hard. So, I mean, you can do them. But again, it's going to be pretty inefficient. I mean, maybe you can pick up things like the Elder Chaos Robes. And Crystalia is nice, but you're probably not going to be able to pick your Slayer task yet either. So, like, you're just going to be, it's just going to be inefficient. But Revs is going to be a big draw. You're going to be able to get a lot of supplies and a lot of cash. But again, like with all of these, the weapons are so rare as a drop. You can't pick your Slayer task, so you're not going to get the benefit of being able to kill those on Slayer task. I just don't think it's really going to be worth your time. But you know, if you love it, you love it. Shops, there's not really anything out here. I mean, you got the Bandit Camp. So if you want to sell things for money and you didn't go fire sale, you have that as an option. You've also got the Mage Arena Bank for things like Cosmic and Law Ruins. And again, you're not going to be seeing a lot of gear upgrades. Yes, there are the wilderness weapons, but again, like even if you're Scold and you go into the Rev Caves, it's just, you don't have to, like you're going to be maybe 2 times the drop rate, you know, because that scales. You're going to get better drop rates later. So I think it's a stretch to say that you're going to get it. Unless you get lucky on like a Slayer assignment, you're Scold, and you're also just straight up getting lucky on the drop, you're probably not going to see those. You know, mage-wise, you got the Mage Arena out in Deep Wilderness, so you can pick up a staff there. But, I mean, that's really about it for you. And likewise with skilling, I mean, you can get a lot of herbs from killing the druids. There is an agility course out there, which is going to be pretty good XP. And then you're going to get access to Chaos Ruins as well, so if you didn't want to do Cosmic, so you do that. Black Salamanders is kind of high level, but it is still, you know, kind of in that mid-game area. So, like, assuming you get the level to do them when you go out to the wilderness, you'll have that as an option. You can also charge air orbs. So if you did end up going fire sale, you might be able to do something like you charge these air orbs and then you pick up a whole bunch of battle staffs from Zeah. Then you could use that for crafting. Okay, now we're getting into some of the heavy hitters here, starting with Asgarnia. Now, there is quite a bit that you can do. You're going to get access to things like black dragons in the Taverley dungeon. You'll also be getting wyverns eventually. It is a little bit Slayer heavy, so you probably want to come back to this later. But if you're looking for that Ruined Crossbow, that is going to be an option for you. You're also going to pick up the Mole Boss, which you're not going to really care so much about his drops probably, but there are going to be some tasks and he's pretty easy to kill. Some of the larger things, you're going to be picking up Turiel, so if you wanted to start skipping tasks, that's something that you could do. You've got the Crafting Guild, which is going to be, you know, a crafting shop, Tanner, so you're going to have all of the benefits of that. It only takes 40 crafting to get in there. You pick up the Thieving outfit, so now all of your pickpock loot is going to be doubled if you didn't go for Trickster. And then there is also Pest Control, which early on, you're probably going to want to pick up Void. Void's going to be really good. Not to mention the Warriors Guild is here too, so you can pick up a Defender. There are a couple of other shops. You'll get things like, you'll have a crafting shop in Remington, so if you're not 40 crafting, you can get some of the things there. You'll have the Dwarven Mine, so you can pick up a Ruined Pickaxe. Not to mention, you know, you also have things like Motherlode Mine in there, the Mining Guild. So you'll have a lot of mining activity that you can do. Falador has a gem shop, so you can use that for crafting. If you want to get 40, I mean, you just go buy gems. Even if you don't have fire sale, I think you actually make money buying the cut gem and then selling back the uncut gem. Another interesting one is actually going to be the bagged plant shop in the park, because if you went for fire sale, you just got free 99 farming and 99 construction with that. Normally it is crazy expensive, like hundreds and hundreds of mills to do that. But with fire sale, it's free. So like you pick up the best bag plant, you just go to town. You don't even need a saw. You just have at it, man. It's gonna be great. 99 farming, 99 construction. It's free if you take fire sale. If you don't take fire sale, the shop probably isn't as interesting to you because you're just not gonna have the cash to go for bag plants, and it's not really gonna be worth it. You also do pick up the fishing shop in Port Sarim. So if you are looking to do some AFK on like lobsters or swordfish, now you'll be able to do that. And of course, gear-wise, it's pretty much just Void. Like, you're going to be going for Void. You're going to get that Defender. That's going to be the main focus. You can also pick up the climbing boots if you're melee. But this is going to be some really good, like, mid-game gear, and you may actually get pretty good use out of it even in the end game. And again, just to help visualize some of the skills, you've got crafting with things like cutting the gems from the gem shop. You can also charge your fire orbs, so if you want to train magic that way, and kind of same deal, you know, charge the fire orbs, get battle stats from Zeah, put them together for crafting. That's an option to you. You've also got the mines of, what is it, Camdozel or something? I haven't been down there. I don't know what I'm talking about, but mining and fishing are available down there, so it is an option for you too as an early game thing that you could do. And again, Motherlode Mine, Mining Guild, both of those things. 99 construction, 99 farming from that shop. You do also pick up the farming patch south of Falador, so if you don't use the shop, you will get access to more farming XP through that patch. And you're also picking up another agility course on the Falador rooftops, so that can help speed up your training if you've already gone over the level for Varrock. You want to get the Marks of Grace. And again, I mean, I guess with this area, you are going to probably have a task to get the Graceful outfit, even though you have unlimited runs, so it's not going to be that useful, but it is going to be a task that you have to do. Man, right off the back of Asgarnia, we've got Kandarin, another just absolutely massive area. And honestly, there's so much here that I had to like condense it quite a bit. You're going to definitely see things missing as I'm like going through and talking about this. So if you see something big that I missed, make sure to comment it below, so that way people know it's there. But like, there's a lot. So when you open this up, you're going to have Monkey Madness 2 finished already. So you're going to have access to things like the Monkey Madness tunnels. You will also have access to, and I put up the gorillas there, the OG like AFK training method, if anybody remembers that from back in the day. You could, in theory, go to Nightmare Zone, but you probably won't have a lot of great quest bosses if you haven't been doing quests up until this point. So Nightmare Zone may not be a super fun experience for you. Outside of that, you've got things like Barbarian Assault, so you can pick up some Barbarian armor. You've got the fishing trawler for XP, the angler's outfit. You've got a lot of options in terms of Slayer, so you can go through Steve. Rip Neve, you didn't get to see her, she's gone. She's gone, quest is complete, it's over. So hopefully you weren't looking for her. But he is there, you can do some Slayer. You've got the Slayer Cave right next to him. You're also gonna have access to things like the corrupted or mutated terror birds, the tortoises as well. So you'll be able to get some drops from those. There's some supply drops. There's like one of the charged staff drops from that. You've also got Castle Wars, so if you're a big Castle Wars fan, you'll be able to go through that. Probably going to be a lot of tasks associated with getting some of the armor there. You're also picking up 3 whole guilds in this region. So you're going to have the Ranging Guild, the Fishing Guild, and the Magic Guild. And kind of in line with that, there's going to be quite a few shops that you pick up in those. So you'll get, I mean, you're going to have a fishing shop in Catherby anyway, but there's also going to be a fishing shop in the Fishing Guild. You'll also be picking up things like in the Ranging Guild, you get a Tanner. You're going to have an arrow shop that goes up to Ruin. So if you hadn't picked up a Ruin crossbow yet, this is going to help you with ammo if you're a ranged build. On Apatol, you've got a crafting shop. You've also got the Dragon Scimitar shop. And since you don't have that combat relic yet, you may actually get quite a bit of use out of the Dragon Scimitar. In the Magic Guild in Yanil, you're going to get access to the shop that sells the Mystic Robes. Now, you don't get the shop for Ruins because you have to finish Hand in the Sand. Pain in the butt, I know. I ran into this on the Transit Only account. Like, you have to have Asgarnia to unlock that shop, so just keep that in mind. You're not getting the fancy Ruin shop if you're opening this region up first. And then you're also going to pick up a gem shop in Ardoin. He only does cut gems, so you don't get the benefit of being able to cut those, but you can also turn them into jewelry, so you'll still have access to gems through that. Gear-wise, since you picked up a Tanner, you can pick up some red D'hide pretty easily. Got those melee armor pieces that I already mentioned, as well as the magic armor upgrades. The biggest thing is going to be that staff for magic, because up until this point, you're having to use things like Fire Strike, probably, some of the fire spells. But now you're going to get this scepter, and it's going to be a charged staff. I mean, it basically works like a trident, but just a little bit weaker. So that one is going to be big, but it is going to require, I think, a little bit of Slayer. I'm not 100% sure if those new creatures have a Slayer requirement, so make sure to check that. Also, skilling-wise, you're going to pick up a whole bunch of different options for yourself. Now, out of all of the regions, I mean, a lot of them have quests that can give you XP, but Kandarin in particular has a lot of quests that are going to give you a lot of XP, both in combat stats and in your various skills. So when you look at like combat stats, you got things like the fight arena, waterfall. You're going to be able to do those. And then you're also going to have things like, what is it, that fishing platform quest? Gosh, I'm blanking on the name of it, but you probably know what I'm talking about. So you'll be able to do that for a big drop of fishing XP. And there's a whole lot of quests out there that can give you these different XP drops, so it's a good area to get for questing. You're also going to pick up 2 farming patches, so you're going to have access to even more farming XP, plus some tree patches as well. You're going to get the Sears Agility Rooftop course, so once you've leveled up past the Varrock one, this is going to give you that as an option. You have a ton of hunter options, more than just the red chins. I put that here as kind of like a placeholder, but you have more gray chins, you have like falconry, you have rabbit hunting, like, what is it, the like jungle cats or whatever. there's so many options for hunter. You are not going to struggle at all when it comes to hunter. And likewise with thieving, you're going to have things like Arty Knights. If you ended up taking trickster, you can go up to like paladins, heroes. So you're going to have a lot of thieving XP that you can get through pickpocketing. And then also the Arania altar, hopefully saying that right, you should be able to use that as well for decent rune crafting XP. Not going to be quite as good as Guardians of the Rift, but it is giving you a much better option than just normal crafting. All right, now we're on to a couple of sad regions. So like the Fremennik, I mean, you can technically you can pick it as your first one. Don't, please don't. You're going to have such a bad time because there's really not a lot of early game content. And so you're going to struggle to find tasks that you can do. You're going to struggle to find new training methods, which means you're going to have to rely more on the starter areas. And it's just going to mean having to do tougher tasks earlier on. I think if you pick this first, you're going to be killing your momentum. So like second, third, great. It's got a lot of interesting things you can do, a lot of PVM content you can do. But as your first one, don't. Just don't. Likewise, Tirannwn, you see that face? That face is going to be you if you pick this first. You're supposed to be in this area at like 70 stats. So like you're not going to have a lot of early game stuff you can do. Please, for the love of God, don't pick this one first. I get it. Tirannwn, crystal stuff, Zora, it's a great time. You're not doing it early on. You're just not. Please don't. You're going to have a bad time. Just pick anything else. Your path, your route is going to have any other choices. Just don't do this one. All right, back into a region that actually has some things for you to do. Kourend, the last one on this list, Kourend, Zeah, whichever you prefer. This one also is going to have an absolute ton of stuff available to you. You are going to have a prayer training method because you've got an altar that you can use bones on in the 4th OS dungeon. You do have to use some bones up front that you're not going to get XP for, but once you unlock it, it's there for you. You've got sand crabs for AFK training. You're going to have the Arceus spellbook as another alternative for prayer training. If you're starting to get some ensoiled heads, you'll be able to use those. Winter Todd's going to be huge. You're going to be fire making, wood cutting, fletching, a little bit of construction in there as well. So Winter Todd's going to be big. Those crates are going to be really good. They're going to get better the more levels that you get, but you can definitely just do that early on and knock out some quick fire making levels. Maybe you work your way up to 70 and save the rest for when you have higher XP multipliers. You're also going to get Mulch Island, which is a combination of fishing and hunter. So that's going to give you kind of a different way to train both of those, which is neat. You're going to also have Tithe Farm and the Farming Guild, so you're really buffing up your farming, not to mention you're getting farming patches in Osidious and the Farming Guild itself. You'll also have Konar Slayer. Now, I wouldn't really suggest doing Slayer early on, kind of like the other areas. You're not going to have that combat relic. You're not going to be able to pick your task right away because that relic is going to come in the later tiers. So probably not the most fun thing to do, especially early on, but it is there if you want to. The Brimstone chest is going to be great for supplies. Going back into the 4th OS dungeon, you're also going to have the Grubby Keys. You're going to have Sarachnis. That's going to be pretty decent, like early mid-game content that you can work through. You've also got the Catacombs of Kourend. I don't actually recommend doing the boss that I have there, but how are you going to represent the catacombs? There's a lot of creatures in the catacombs, so you can get a lot of like random mid-game gear drops. And also, you're going to get access to a tanner in the 4th OS dungeon, so if you hadn't gotten Black D'hide yet and you want to struggle through a brutal Black Dragon or two, you'll be able to tan that and then end up making armor for yourself if you're going something like ranged. Now, there's a couple other shops that are worth noting. So Piscarius, you get your fishing gear shop. You also get raw food in one of the shops all the way up to Shark. So that could be really good if you want to just max out your cooking really quickly. Lovakench for your pickaxe. Woodcutting Guild for your woodcutting axe. I guess they just call them axe. Arceus, you're also going to get access to a rune shop, which is going to have soul and blood runes. So if you're going fire sale, I mean, you're going to have a great time with that one. And again, gear-wise, like, you're not going to be doing much for yourself melee. You pick up, like, Shazian gloves, Shazian boots. Not a huge deal. Again, if you struggle through those brutal blacks, you can pick up some black D-hide. You are going to get some kind of early game mage gear upgrades in the salad robes, or Zeretian robes if you prefer, and then you can also pick up a Tome of Fire potentially from Wintertodd. Though, again, since the drop rates aren't going to be quite as good, you may not want to spend a lot of time picking that up right now. Skilling, you have a ton of options with this one. You've got the Arceus library for rune crafting and magic. You've got stealing artifacts from the Piscarius house for thieving XP. Tons of farming XP with all the stuff that I've already mentioned. Obsidius, you get the range, so if you're already working on your cooking, that can just help speed it up a little bit more. Woodcutting with the Woodcutting Guild, you get an invisible boost when you're in there, so you're going to be just that much faster. Wintertodd, obviously, with fire making, you're also going to be getting a decent amount of woodcutting. Fletching, if you fletch. Why fletch? But you should fletch. And then construction as well. And then Hunter, you do have some options there. You've also got gray chins here, so if there's a lot of competition on the Isle Souls, which there probably will be, you can pick up chins while you're in Zeah as well. Plus the aerial fishing too, that option just, again, as Hunter and fishing XP, so that's just giving you one more way to do it. Shifted over this side. Hello. I thought I'd put all of these in a tier list, giving everything that I've talked about, kind of boiling it down. And again, I'm not saying any of these areas are bad by any means. They all have something to offer. But for your first unlock, there are definitely some clear winners. So Kandarin, Korend, both of those. S tier, you have a lot of different options. I think there's going to be a lot of tasks that are pretty easy to get to. It's going to help keep that momentum up. Same deal with Desert and Asgarnia. They're not quite as good, but they still have a lot of variety. I mean, honestly, the difference between S and A tier for this is pretty minimal. If you pick any of the top 4 of these, you're probably going to be having a pretty good time. Now, once you get down to like B through D, I'm saying just avoid all of these. Like, picking these first, it's going to feel bad. Morytania is going to be a little bit less bad. The Wilderness is going to be a little bit more bad. And then Fremennik and Tirannwn, you're like crying in a corner over there. And you're wishing like you hadn't done this and you're restarting your account because like you've got nothing to do. So like those bottom 4, just don't. Like your route surely includes one of these top 4 because they are so integral with the gear that they offer. Even if they're offering like later game things like Asgarnia with God Wars or Kandarin with some of the magic jewelry, like they've also just got so much early game stuff, you're gonna be fine. Like even if you're a melee build and you're like, I know I want to get to Morytania, like you're probably also gonna have Asgarnia in your list. Just take that one first, man. Do yourself the favor. Don't lock yourself into Morytania in your first area because you're gonna be struggling for tasks. You're going to just be struggling to like level up your skills. And that means you're not going to unlock relics as quickly. You're not going to unlock your second area as quickly. It's just going to be sad. Now, that was a lot. So if I missed anything, definitely put it in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. How did I do on the tier list? You think that one of these should actually be higher than it is? Maybe you think Wilderness is like A tier. Let me know. This is going to be the last like discussion video I do before League starts. So if you want to see the League series that I'm going to be putting out, I am going to be doing daily Leagues videos, at least for the first week. So subscribe if you want to see that. Otherwise, I will catch you in the Leagues videos.